The Fossores Chapter House is the world's first headquarters for Christian ministerial innovation, bringing preachers, leaders, and innovators together to collaborate on new liturgies, resources, and responses to the challenge of our times. This podcast explores the ever-changing era of perpetual upheaval, in which effective ministry requires constant imagination, creativity, and change. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today on the Chapter House podcast. I'm Dave and I'm your host, and I'm very excited to be joined with my good friend Kelly Heath, once again, the worship designer at Westwinds, and my good buddy DJ Andre, who actually taught both Kelly and I how to DJ. So why don't you guys say hey and welcome yourselves and everybody else watching.
Hey, what's up guys? How are you?
Hi, welcome me.
Welcome you. Good. It's that kind of enthusiasm I expect. This is our first ever evening recording session of the Chapter House podcast, so we'll have to see how the caffeine and the sour bears stack up. But Kels, why don't you tell everybody how we first met Andre and how we started convincing him to teach us how to DJ?
Okay, this is going to be a good test if I remember. I know that it was in preparation for ASR, All Saints Rave, that we did on November 1st, or Halloween night, for All Saints Day. And I know that you were teaching us how to scratch records. And that I could not find one for the life of me.
The lifelong music major could not find the downbeat. That was pretty great.
You're so close. Try it again. You're so close. Try it again. That wasn't close. Try it again.
Yeah, we have about 40 minutes of video evidence of you smiling, telling Kelly she was wrong.
Being very, very patient and probably like, oh my goodness, what is wrong with this girl?
Yeah.
It's okay.
We've been praying for somebody to meet somebody who knew how to scratch records and DJ, and then.
Wait, did you meet him at a wedding?
Yeah, I was at a wedding reception.
Yep.
And then I heard you mashing up like AC/DC and the Black Eyed Peas during the reception, and I was like, all right, I want to be this person's friend. And I think I offered to give you money. If I give you money, will you teach me how to scratch records?
Will you be my friend?
Will you talk to me later? Yeah. But you're a long-term Jackson guy, right? You grew up here.
Born and raised, yeah.
Yeah, and how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Hemphill or
Hemphill.
Hemphill, okay,
Yeah.
So it's the F sound, yeah.
Yeah.
And you used to work for, is it Youth for Christ?
Young Life.
Young Life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Young Life Gear?
Yeah. I worked for Young Life for about 3 or 4 years. I just recently stopped and stepped down, but I still kind of help out when I can with it. But
yeah. And how did you get started in DJing?
So I was actually involved with my church. I was supposed to go get a bass guitar and be a part of the church choir. And I went to a guitar center in Indianapolis. There's a DJ there that was like scratching and doing all this cool stuff. As a kid, I was really big into dancing. So I was like, I always wanted to know what it was like on the other side of the dance floor where you're the DJ and you're the guy making all the music. And I asked him, we talked, and he was like, yeah, it's not too hard to learn. And instead of buying a bass guitar, I bought my first controller. And I came home and I was like, sorry, guys. I got this. And,
does that mean I'm not in the choir anymore?
Right. And so I got it, and I was all excited, set it up, didn't know what I was going to do, didn't know how to do any of it. So then I started watching YouTube. The guy gave me his phone number. And we Skyped a couple times.
Just say it on the podcast. So everyone can call him.
If I knew it off the top of my head, I would definitely do it.
So 911.
Yeah, 867-5309. That's what it is. But yeah, so he ended up teaching me just like the basics on counting music and stuff. And then once I got that down and he showed me what programs to get, then it was just me trying. Yeah. And I started beat matching, and then I did that for about 3 months, and I was kind of like how David was like, I want to meet some friends that are actual DJs and get to know some people. And there was this competition in East Lansing, and I was like, you know what, it's worth a shot. Even if I don't make it, I can at least meet some people.
Yeah, right.
And my first year getting involved, I ended up placing 8th out of 64 DJs. So.
Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
So beat matching, for those who don't understand, is what?
So beat matching is taking two songs that are the same tempo or beats per minute, and you drop them in a way to where they coexist together and kind of like it's all in natural flow. So it sounds like one song instead of two.
Yeah. Like when you mashed up Black
Eyed Peas and AC/DC, yeah.
Yeah, which is so cool. And then the software gives you some control over that. Like if Black Eyed Peas is at 72 BPM and AC/DC is at 68, the software will
you can adjust the tempo by the pitch fader. Can't talk.
Yeah. So what controller do you use right now?
I actually use turntables. So I use the Pioneer PLX 1000s, and then I have a mixer, which is the Pioneer DJM S9. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you're right.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's like the flagship for like club industry and stuff like that. Basically, what they'll use. If they don't use that, then they use CDJs, which is also by Pioneer. So.
Yeah, and then you run it through your laptop, right?
Yep, through I have a MacBook Pro laptop that runs Serato Studio and Serato DJ, and I DJ off of both of those platforms.
Yeah. Okay. And if somebody wanted to get started in DJing, what would be the first thing that they wanted to do?
I would tell someone that's getting started into DJing to get a controller first because they're cheaper. My setup was very expensive. It was upwards to $3,500. And then getting a controller, you can find them used for around $200-$300, and you can still learn all of the basics on that and then eventually graduate to a bigger equipment. So.
Yeah. And a couple years ago, the Mark Driscoll, who was a famous pastor at one point, and said that the best cultural parallel to a preacher is a stand-up comedian. And he used Chris Rock as an example because of the timing of a comedian, because the way a comedian has to earn their audience. They got to have a laugh every 20 seconds in order to, and for a long time, that was the dominant cultural symbol of preaching. I mean, secular preachers were comedians. Even you think about like Sam Kinison, the old preacher, was a gospel preacher and then became a filthy comedian and had much more success as a dirtbag than he ever did as a disciple. But I really think that DJs are a much stronger cultural preacher, a cultural icon than stand-up comedians. I mean, especially because it's so much more holistic, it's so much more embodied, it's more immersive. A comedian's really only appealing to your wit and your sense of timing. A DJ is appealing to your body, to your sense of connection with other people. And as somebody who's concerned with experiential worship, if I look at the book of Revelation, for example, I'd way rather have, oh gosh, this is gross to say, but I'd way rather have Pitbull take me through the book of Revelation than Chris Rock.
I can see that.
Apologies to everyone alive for that.
Are you a 40-year-old divorced woman?
Yeah, that's right. I might be. Yeah, that's it.
It's your spirit animal.
Mm-hmm. So that's what really got me into DJing. Is I even watching DJs at wedding receptions, I'm like the way they use the mic. I go, that's how we use the mic in between songs and worship. The way they use their body, the way they call out to the crowd. I go, that's how youth group preachers engage teenagers. That's how college preachers on campus shut down their hecklers. I mean, if you couldn't hear anything, the visuals of a DJ behind their pulpit is so similar to that of a preacher. When you can hear anything, everything that a DJ is doing is designed to elicit a response from their audience, which is what great preaching is supposed to be. Great preaching is supposed to be great theater. Great preaching is supposed to be a great dancing partner. And so that's what really got me into it and got me thinking about DJing as a metaphor for preaching and really a way for me to learn. What got you into it?
I think I was just bored of all the things that were happening, and I was really starting to get into EDM. So all of that has a
electronic
DJ.
Dance music.
Yep. All of that has a strong DJ component to it, or a lot of it does. The producing, all of that. But I didn't know anything about it. I'm classically trained, and grew up singing Hill songs like the rest of us. So I remember you saying stems and me being like, "What are those? I don't know what those are." I had such a huge learning curve.
What are stems? For the 48 people who are listening.
So a stem could be a couple of different things, but a stem mostly is like a snippet of like music. So it could be, say you have one stem for just the instrumental of a track, and then one stem for the vocal, or one stem of just the drum kick.
What does stem stand for?
So stem is
it STEM or STIM?
Yes, STEM.
Oh, okay.
So I can't remember off the top of my head what it. I could Google it,
yeah.
But that's about all I got.
So, but I actually think there's different components of DJing that to me are a great metaphor for preaching, and stems is one of them. Stems, whatever, is one of them.
Absolutely.
Because I think of it as taking particular parts, like musical components.
Yes.
Just the drum line, like
yes.
you said, just the bass line,
Yep.
the famous guitar line. That's what Jesus does with the prophets. Jesus is quoting the prophets almost exclusively. The book of Revelation is John quoting the themes from the Old Testament. Paul is using the stems from Jesus' ministry. Great Christians today and historically are people who live out of the themes of love and justice, advocacy, mercy, compassion, who pull those. You can hear the bass line of the ministry of Jesus in a great Christian today. You can hear the riff of Isaiah in the ministry of a great Christian today. A great Christian community is going to feel like the community in Rome or Philippi. I mean, so I think it's a really rich metaphor. Sorry, I'm going to get ahead of myself.
No, not at all. I think it's good. I honestly, I look at music in a way where, like, you can express emotion and you can have a lot of feelings, kind of like some of the stuff you said. Music can move people, and it can put them in a place of where you can find happiness, you can find comfort, you can find joy in music, and sometimes you don't even need lyrics to do it. Just the beat and the instrumental alone can help you. It can put you in a place to where you can feel connected to something. And like, some people don't see that aspect of it, but as DJs, it's our job to try to get into your mind enough to make you happy and release this exciting feeling of like, oh, I love this song, because music can grab people. And when it grabs you, it puts you, it can push you in a direction to make you feel joy or sad. And so, I've always just looked at that as like an escape for me. Whenever I'm DJing and I'm at home and I get to play the stuff that I love, I find myself in a different place.
Paul, you're really fun. Is it DJ Just Dre?
Yes.
And you have the cute little bear logo.
Yeah. Just is something that's different, and it's like it allows me to have fun with it, and my kids, when they see it, they see positiveness, and I just want to show them like, yeah, you can do things that are unconditional and untraditional, I should say, and then still find happiness in it and still find success in it, as long as you're really trying and putting an effort into it. So, and music can be that escape for them, because sometimes when I'm like, oh, you guys are being real moody, go listen to some easy listening and go relax.
For you.
Right.
Okay, you said you're really trying to get people to feel happy. Oftentimes through music can make people feel sad. Have you ever done a DJ gig where you were supposed to make people feel something other than happy? Like, have you ever DJ'd a funeral? DJ'd a dirge? So
I haven't done like a funeral or anything like that, but there is music that allows people to feel emotion. So in like the EDM culture, there are artists like Cascades, Sound Holo, what's another one that's really good? Yepa. And like these people, what they do is, like, when you listen to their music, if you're having like a tough time, or if you're like feeling down on yourself, they have this feeling of allowing you to feel those feelings still, but in the same sense, it's relaxing to you and it's calming, because sometimes, like, it's not the hype, full of energy music that we need. Sometimes it is like that down tempo. Let's relax. Let's just breathe. Let's catch a
trance is like that. Rooms are like that.
Yep. And so, I've done like deep house, where deep house isn't really like something that you'll see a bunch of people like dancing to or anything, but it has an emotion that comes with it, and it's different for every individual what they get out of that music. And so some people will be completely sad, and then other people will be, I guess, facing a battle or going through an emotion. And so, like, the way these artists, they build their music is they're built off of their emotions and how they're feeling at that time. So sometimes people can grab it one way, or it could be the complete opposite, and they can grab it and just look at it from a different set of lenses, as I like to call it. So
I think another one of the reasons that I really gravitated toward being a DJ is I am not especially, like, I like songwriting, but I like arranging better. Mm-hmm. And this is such a great way to take songs that I love, that make me happy, and arrange them and have fun with them, and sort of express my creativity like that, rather than creating a brand new song or producing a brand new song. So
Yeah, we touched on that kind of mashup concept last week, which I very crankily pointed out. That really, my favorite part about mashups is you can take out all the crappy parts of songs. You know, you only play the good 8 bars or whatever, and Oh, pardon my telescope there. One thing you brought up deep house. Now, deep house is like that real low pass filter, deep bass kind of music, right? Mm-hmm. The real thrumming music, great LSD, mushroom sort of culture. But that is one of the other big things that I really like about DJing is the ability to add filters. Yeah. Like a low pass filter, for example, for those who might not know, is when you take all the higher and mid highs out of a song and you get that kind of noise. And I think there again, that's a great metaphor for preaching. And sometimes that's really important. For example, in the season of the coronavirus, when so many people have been negatively affected, it seems tone deaf for somebody to talk about always being happy no matter what. Because you're like, well, that's easy for you to say if, for example, all you did was lose your 8-hour-a-week job. But if somebody lost their livelihood, if somebody lost 4 family members, it's the same kind of tone deafness when somebody says all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter. Because you're like, hey, man, you're missing the point here. So in times of great cultural sensitivity, we use filters to highlight or to suppress certain parts of the scripture. Not because they're no longer relevant, but because other things need to be heard with more force and more vigor. It's not always time to talk about judgment. It's not always time to talk about blessing. To everything, like Ecclesiastes says, there's a season. And I think rhythmically and theologically, applying filters like we do in DJing is a really great way to do that.
Absolutely.
I like to tease out these metaphors, because anything that helps us defamiliarize the familiar and make it more not abstract, make it more concrete.
Oh yeah.
Give us a grid to think it through is helpful. Yeah. What about you? What's the favorite? There's a difference between DJing and producing, right? What's the difference?
Well, DJing, you're playing music that is you're basically reading off of the crowd. You're feeling what's out there, and you are putting that same energy into the music and bringing it out. So I like to say DJing is like the expression, and then, not the expression. That's more producing. DJing is more of like, look at me. This is what I'm doing for you. And then
it's like the performance kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like you're.
Okay.
It's like the reward for all the hard work.
Okay. Yeah.
And in a sense, and then producing is more of, I'm building something here that I'm hopes of it being great, because you don't really know how it's going to fall with people. But
I was thinking of producing as the private stuff that somebody makes in their.
It's the stuff behind the scenes. Yeah. You can meet a producer and never know that they work with music, but then when you meet a DJ, some DJs, they have like personas and stuff that they have about them because the stuff that they're going to play.
Or Dead Mouse.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's more of like when you're a DJ, there's a couple of different types of DJs. So it all depends. So there's like turntablists. There's the DJs that are strictly that just do like house music and trance. And then there's the DJs that do the big house, Dutch, and stuff like that. And the differences between them all is a turntablist, he doesn't really want the fame. He wants to be more of like an underground DJ. He's going to do this stuff, but he's not going to be the guy that's on the mic and trying to hype the crowd up. He will let his skills do the talking for him. Okay. And then like a big name EDM artist, he's going to interact with you. He's already produced. He's established himself as I guess you could say, as a famous person. So then when he goes out, it's more of like being in the presence of this producer that's created all this great music. And then when you have like house is really not about the DJ individually. It's more about how he blends his music, because house is very seamless and it's like perfect in a sense to where it's like the tempo's same, it's consistent, it's consistency. And compared to like a turntablist, he could be all over the place. The way he plays, he may play rock one for like 5 minutes, then hip hop the next. Houses, they're going to strictly stay to that house, that type of house. EDM, you would see I like to call them mountain peaks, because they start low and then they go to a peak and come back down and then go back up and then come back down. So they do constant build-ups.
That's where all the beat drops
Yes.
are.
Yep, for your bass drops and stuff like that. So it separates kind of into categories on what type of DJ a person is. So the new term for like a hip-hop DJ now, they go by open format because they will play top 40, they'll play rock and roll and all these other things. But where they find their niche is more hip-hop feeling compared to is if there was a DJ, he said he's a house DJ, you know that person is going to play upbeat, same kind of consistent tempo, and it's going to be like that the whole night, compared to like an EDM where it's like, oh, I'm an EDM DJ. You know that there's going to be a build up and a bass drop. Yeah. And so it goes to a peak and then it comes back down and then it will continue to do so. But,
yeah. Huh. And what are all the stuff that he's talking about? How do you understand all that? I mean, are you seeing they're making parallels to Electric Forest, Lost Lands, Lakes of Fire?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was just thinking about like all the EDM DJs that we've seen and how that's almost secondary to them. Yeah. Because they are producing and making everything first. So then the DJ's almost like, it's not maybe their passion the same way it is for a turntablist or for somebody with house. But yeah, I think it's just the different things that they're trying to elicit from people. Like you said, the different ways that they're responding in the audience and the different ways that they've learned to interact with the audience and kind of share their message. It's denominations.
Denominations or past the apostles, prophets. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was so disappointed to learn, and it makes so much sense now, almost like they're lip syncing, but I was so disappointed to learn that Skrillex is not making his music live on stage. Nope. He makes it all in the basement. And then he brings all the crap up on stage, and it might as well not even be plugged in, because all he's going to do is jump up and down on it and slam it around and set his hair on fire anyway. But then I like that too, because I don't think Lady Gaga is singing when she's up there.
A lot of it in the industry is pre-recorded. There are artists that do DJ their sets and they do them and they're all unique. And the way you tell the difference between the two is that if that DJ's standing on top of the table and he's jumping for half of the set, there's no way he's focused enough on trying to make his transitions and his blends as clean as they sound. Like when you see a DJ, they will look up and interact with the crowd, but they're also going to have to look down to focus on what they're doing. I've learned that because, I've liked going to music festivals. Ultra Music Festival was amazing. I got to go to Miami.
You got to go to Ultra Music Festival?
The year that Swedish House Mafia performed, they got back together and they did
awesome.
that. It was amazing. I was super ecstatic about it.
I want to go to Tomorrowland. That's on my bucket list.
Mine too.
Yeah.
We could do it. It'd be awesome.
If the world
yeah, that'd be great. And when I got to see some of my like favorite icons that I looked up to, and like I was like, wow, he really doesn't DJ. And it was like a letdown, but then it's just like, no, there's so much more. Here's this huge experience, and everything that I'm happy. But I also think to myself, this guy is heart and passion is in producing. It's not really in DJing, as she said. And so then I was like, oh, okay. So then like I look at like a Laid Back Luke. He's very passionate about being a DJ, and he. When he DJs, you would never see him play the same set. It's always different. It's something new, and none of his it's fresh. Yeah. Compared to like other DJs where I was going to like their parties before their show, and they were playing snippets of the stuff that they were going to play at their show. And so then I was like, when I heard it at Ultra, I was like, oh, he played this just the other night.
Yeah, right.
And it's the same thing. And I could tell what songs he was going to play before he was going to play them. Mm-hmm. I didn't get mad or anything, but I just knew then that was where you see the difference. And then a lot of them, because they are producers, they don't know how to use DJ equipment or have the time to learn that. I believe Zed, one of the biggest DJ/producers in the world, he just recently started to learn how to DJ on CDJs, and he didn't know how to do it for the longest time. Mm-hmm. He would DJ.
Just different software, different workflow, different workstation,
And so he had to learn, well, when he would DJ, his stuff that he did use, he had a small controller. So you would see this itty-bitty controller set up on top of this. But that was what he was comfortable with until he got used to using CDJs. And now he's used to using CDJs and he performs with them, and I think it's great because now you get to see that side of him with turntables, and then eventually once he gets even better, then you'll see more effects come out and stuff. So like, I think that's like the coolest part about being a DJ or like a turntablist, because turntablists, they want to utilize every aspect of their turntables. They want to, oh, there's a new effect that just came out. I want to try it and see what I can do with it.
So when you say turntable, go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of discovery, and actually, what we're doing for Christmas Eve, my like secret passion is to make sure that no service is the same. The way that we're remixing things and doing that, I won't mess with the video. Don't worry.
No service is the same. You mean like of the same service, like when we do services at 4, 5, and 6, and then the next day at 4, 5, and 6. Those services, you don't want those services.
They will be the same as far as content, but musically, there are going to be little Easter eggs that are different because I'm sampling an orchestra. I'm going to be able to remix things on the spot.
Well, I can't cast stones because it's not like my sermons are going to be the same.
So that's sort of my little like growth edge there to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. What a good way for me to find that out. What about like when we go? I can't remember the last or the first show that we ever went and saw. But I really got excited about dubstep. And then we just like Googled, is there other dubstep shows in Michigan? And you go, and they all remind me of youth group. They're all the EDM shows are in crappy little clubs with stupid little lights, and it reminds me of 50-person youth group. But the energy is so high. Yeah. The energy is so high. So for you as a DJ, having gone through all these energy wells, all these milestones, when you come to church, what do you wish the worship leaders in church would do differently?
Energy. For me, because of all these waves of having moments where it's like way up here, I look for those moments for when it is a passionate song or something that is push, I look for that worship leader to be the trendsetter. Because when you look at a DJ, if the DJ is just really relaxed and laid back the whole time he's DJing, you're not going to feel the same energy. You're not going to feed off the energy. The big thing about like music is the atmosphere. Yeah. And if the atmosphere isn't set right, then it's not going to be received well from the people around it. So like I couldn't go into a place that is set up with no lights or anything like that and be like, we're going to have a really big festival. It's going to be great. The energy is going to be awesome. And think it would work. If my energy is really low at that time, then it's not going to translate really well with the people who I'm trying to entertain. The lights, the atmosphere, and stuff like that, the energy of that person that is being the worship leader is going to be what pushes the event. And so sometimes it's like you get that worship leader and you can tell when they're not in tune and they're like out of sync and they're just like, it becomes like work instead of it being something that is spiritually being given. And so they're like, okay, guys, let's worship today. And then instead of saying, okay, guys, let's worship, let's give it to God, let's do this. And so like when you get that energy, it's easy to feed off of it because then it becomes apparent that other people are seeing that energy and they're like, oh yeah, I love where he's at. And then they want to lean in more because they want to know, why is he here and how do I get there? And I want to be to that. It's just like when you go to a festival, it becomes intimidating at first, but then it becomes comfortable because it's the norm. And I tell people, it's like when something's unnatural or unnormal, like if you just see a group of 3 people jumping in a group of 1,000, you're not going to want to jump because you're going to be like, oh, that's just weird. They're just doing their own thing. Yeah, right. Compared to if you see 100 people jumping and you're the only 2 not jumping, you're going to want to jump. Yeah. And that all stems from the very beginning, the energy that has to be there, that excitement about, we get to worship together. This is awesome. Mm-hmm. Let's do this and continuing to have that excitement. I am bummed out a majority of the time because I love to see the excitement. And then also knowing that there's going to be those times where you bring it down. But bringing it down from that excitement even makes it better because the emotion, they're already attached. They're already locked into it. So.
Well, I mean, you do kind of have to warm up to them. And when they first open up the dance floor at a wedding, oftentimes it's a slower warm-up.
Yeah, it's progression,
if if the DJ comes on too hot, everybody's like, "Who is this loser?"
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
man.
It takes
you guys
time.
Get crazy tonight? Like, no, it's my niece's bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Like, what's the matter with you? Like,
Right.
give me a minute. Yeah. We went and saw Rez with a couple of friends. Rez is a Canadian DJ. Has little googly-eyed laser glasses. We went and saw at a parking lot in a mall in Columbus, in a parking lot show where you had to stay in we took my pickup truck. You had to stay in the back of your pickup truck so you could be socially distanced from everybody. Such a disappointing experience compared to other concerts and festivals.
Yes.
Precisely because of what you're talking about. There's no oral environment. There's no connection with other people.
Right.
You could jump up and down, but you felt really stupid because even if everybody was jumping up and down, you're so far from them.
Yes. You don't feel like you're connected. You don't feel plugged in.
Yeah.
I call that it's like when someone, like when you go to a concert, why is it that everyone wants to be at the front of the stage? It's because they feed off of the energy. Yeah. So it's like that rush to get there and be like, I want to be next to people. I want to feel the heat. I want to feel the energy of everyone else vibing to this. Yeah. And it doesn't happen the same when you're spaced out.
Yeah. What did you take away from Rez?
Just that it was, so when we go to EDM concerts, I sort of feel like that's my church. Mm-hmm. Because I can just absorb everything that's happening and being in that environment and just sort of there's no lyrics coming at you, just let your mind wander. So there is that loss of connection and there is that loss of feeling like we're going through this experience together, like we're all in this together, we're making friends, we're sharing stories, and I don't know how many times we would become friends with total strangers. All of that's gone.
Kelly moms everybody. You find some 16-year-old girl who snuck in and isn't allowed to be there, and she's like, "Oh, can I get you a snack? You need a pop?" She starts taking saltines out of her purse and giving them to strangers.
It's true. I feed all the people around me. That's why I have friends. But yeah, so there was just this sort of disconnect, and it felt like everybody was observing more than participating, and they're just sort of it wasn't the same experience.
Yeah, it was really and especially because Rez is a very talented DJ, but that's not the style of music that I enjoy. It's a little soft, I want music that you can I want to be able to actually bang my head on a stage so that my face bleeds for Jesus, instead of just sort of make my neck sore by falling asleep on an airplane.
That's why your face looks
That is why my face is like this. But it made me realize it's really difficult to separate EDM music from the experience of listening to EDM music live.
Yes.
Because when you get in your car and you listen to it, it's so much less satisfying than when you go to a festival or you go to a show and everybody's pressed up against you so that you just can't escape it. It's the atmosphere, it's the ecosystem of it all that gets you so caught up in it. And the fact that there are so rarely words to the songs really allows you to get past the messaging of the music into the feel and the experience of the music, which I find really cool. Yeah. And I tend to be a little critical, so it gives me a lot less to critique.
Right.
And so then I'm just experiencing it instead of being a nerd about it.
That's one of the biggest things that I've heard was a lot of people say, I don't understand the EDM or techno music. And I said, it's not about the lyrics. It's not about the bass drop. It's just about the escape of how it allows you to empty things. Mm-hmm. And I tell people that the rhythm and the tempo, it's just like you find a beat, you connect with it, and in your head you can imagine anything you want, and you build off of that. And then when that bass drop comes, it's like, boom, you let it all go, you release, you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable to whatever is coming next, because you're not sure, and it comes as a surprise. Yeah. And so I like to say it's an escape from the mind and body in a way that where you just find yourself at peace, and you're learning to understand a new world or a new culture, I say, or a mindset, because it's
Well, there's pretty good spiritual pedigree there. Haitiatic mysticism is all about emptiness. Things like the Jesus prayer and the centering prayer are all about getting lost in the rhythm of constant repetition. You think is repetitive. How about Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner? Lord Jesus, Son of God. It's the same mechanism where you just get lost in the frequent repetition. And then you think about the way that people get caught up in the music. You get in rhythm, your body starts moving, you stop being distracted by all that's around you, get caught up into it, and then the beat drops and everybody goes nuts. It reminds me of all the whirling dervishes and Middle Eastern traditions and Middle Eastern religions where they go in psycho. And I don't want to say that EDM festival culture is the same as Eastern mysticism or Eastern Orthodox Christian spirituality, but there's certainly a lot of comparisons. They're beat mapped.
Yeah. I like to compare it to like tribal stuff from like Africa. Yeah. And because it's rhythms, there's beats, and you can find yourself in places to where like your heart's just wanting more, and you're like you're reaching out for it, and you find yourself in a happy place. Yeah. I don't know. For me, like I say, it puts me on another planet. Like, because of the simple fact, all I feel is joy. I can feel the energy of everyone around me. It's happiness, and so it literally puts you in a better mood. You can't be mad if everyone around you is happy. Like, like
you can.
That's not true.
Like even deep down, even if it is like on the surface of you being mad, but it's like deep down, you're still thinking like, this is awesome. You feel the energy that's there. And you can almost cut it. That's how, like, it's just, you feel that energy. You feel how connected everyone is around you. And then you're like, I want more of this. But even if you're in a bad mood, you're just like, I need to let it go. I need to enjoy myself. You talk yourself out of it. You'd be like, I got to get yourself in check.
You'll see somebody that's having such a good time. And you're like, you can't help but, be like, oh.
Well, and there's something, too, about the duration of it. I mean, you go to church, the worship portion of the service is 15 minutes, 20 minutes if they're Pentecostal. Well, I suppose like 4 hours if they're really Pentecostal. But, I mean, it's so quick, you barely have time to get reset. Whereas at a lot of festivals in particular, but even EDM shows, I mean, it's, 2.5 hour sets. You got lots of time to work through your ish before all this stuff happens, which is cool. Let's talk about beat drops for a minute. Best beat drops.
It all depends. I love all music, so it really just depends on the day for me. But that's a tough one for me. It may come as a shock, but to me, the best bass drops come from future bass.
Okay.
Which it's a version of trap music, which is like another version of dubstep. It comes stemmed from hip hop. Okay. And it's just like, I guess future bass means like future part of it is this futuristic sounds. And then the bass part is the hip hop beats that kind of come along with it. And so it kind of gives you like a cross cultural mix of hip hop and EDM at the same time. And I don't know, it's just something about it that is like, they have such a wide variety of different drops to where like it could be a drop that makes you feel excited or pumped, or it could be a drop that makes you feel like relieved and relaxed. And they both will have like San Holo has a song called Everything Matters. And in that song, it's talking about when it comes to you, everything matters. And I relate it to God. And it's different for everyone else. Because he says, when it comes to you, nothing else matters. So he focuses on that. And then when that bass drops, it's literally like a guitar riff. And then the bass comes in right afterwards. So I don't know. It just catches me every single time. Or I think it's nothing else matters when it comes to you. As that's what the song says. And I want to say it's nothing else matters. But it's a song that you wouldn't really think that it's like connected to the EDM world because he's using a guitar for it. And then like the way the bass comes in, you're like, oh, I get it. And it's kind of like,
Yeah. Well, I guess I know I'm listening to it on the way home. To find out.
I'll send it to you. That way. Yeah.
Well, that's super cool. San Holo. Is that Han Solo, but he's got the letters flipped around? Is that the idea? Or does San Holo mean like something in Portuguese?
I'm not sure. I know, well, he's from the UK. And then he just recently Well, I shouldn't say recently. It's been about four years now. Came to the States. He was known. He got really big for some remixes that he did. He did like a Snoop Dogg remix, and then he did one with like Donkey Kong with the theme song from Donkey Kong, and then like
That's fun.
it was just like some fun dancey stuff that he didn't really think would go far. And then it did, and it blew up for him, and now he's like this amazing big time DJ that tours everywhere in the U.S. and he has a place here. He still goes over there, does stuff in UK, but he's not like a Marshmello or anything. He still kind of flies under the radar. But as far as a producer goes, one of my favorites to watch and to learn and kind of understand from, because he puts a lot of emotion in everything that he does, and he's just really good because he has something for everyone. Yeah. So,
you brought up Marshmello just now. We've talked previously about Daft Punk, or really any of those guys that have kind of a shtick or a gimmick, and of course there's not a great one-to-one parallel with preaching or public ministry, worship leading, whatever. I mean, we don't want to see Kelly with a marshmallow on their head on a Sunday morning, but I do appreciate that they have a shtick. Like these guys, Deadmau5 is a good example where he's really reserved. Yep. He's embarrassed to be up there, so they find a way to hide. And the way that they've found to hide is so ostentatious, it becomes in and of itself a performance. And I think if you're going to be in public ministry and you're a wallflower, you got to find some rough equivalent. Maybe it's you dressing up like a librarian or a Bill Nye with a patterned bow tie and some spectacles, or maybe it's all black attire with really fancy shoes or whatever. But you got to find something that gives you a sense of freedom and protection that is analogous to those guys hiding behind their big heads.
Yeah, I have to have comfort. So whenever I'm DJing, a lot of people don't know it, but I have beads and I put an essential oil on them that is to help me relax. And if I get nervous or if I'm doing something for the first time and I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, I will wear that. And then it's just like, that helps me.
Grounds you.
Yeah, it grounds myself so then I can think clear and I'm not like heart racing, getting nervous, getting clammy hands, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it happens.
That's cool. Do you have anything like that you do for worship leading?
Yeah, I think like you said, I don't know that it's like a shtick or anything, but I definitely have to feel complete in a certain way. Like if I'm wearing the wrong shoes, that's going to be in my head all morning. So I feel like I have to sort of like whatever, if it's a more sporty style or a more dressed up style, it has to at least it has to feel a certain way. Otherwise, it's in my head.
Yeah, it's a distraction. Yeah.
It's the glasses
I
now.
think it's some of the magic glasses. Yeah. Let's see. What about in DJing? You taught me about a thing called beat juggling. What's beat juggling?
So beat juggling is taking the same track and then finding different beats within inside of that track. So, say for example, if the beat goes like boom clap boom 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 clap, your job is to try to find another beat within inside of that. And so you could go boom, clap, clap, boom, boom, clap, boom. And you just kind of go back and forth between the two. Or the other way of doing a beat juggle is just making it sound as if it's a seamless loop between the same song on two different sides of your decks, your turntables or your controllers, and making them sound as if it's just one loop playing over and over again.
So, for example, if you've got 2 bars of just drums on a track by Led Zeppelin,
yep,
Levy's Gonna Break, or whatever, and then you'd have that loaded onto both sides with both turntables.
Yep.
And so you'd just play 2 bars on the right turntable, then 2 bars on the left turntable, but the same 2 bars.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the more technical you get with it, the more you find different ways to take sounds and move them around. And it's kind of like, that there's a bass hit here and then there's a clap. So if you want to take and make a different beat, that you have your bass and your clap. So you're like, bass is at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, let's say, and your clap is at 12. So then you go bass, clap, bass, bass, clap, bass, clap, bass,
all
bass,
with
clap.
Your hands.
Yes.
So you're pulling the turntable back.
Yes, and push. Yes.
Okay. So almost like you're just tapping with your hands.
Yes.
Except you do.
But you're just bringing it back to that spot. I guess that's the easiest way of kind of describing what a beat juggle
makes
is.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the natural question is then why bother? Because you can do all that stuff so easily with software.
Yes.
You can do it on your computer. So what's the value then of doing it?
So the value in doing like a beat juggle, it shows your talent. So anybody can learn how to be a DJ.
Meaning go from song to song.
Yeah, from song to song, blending. As long as you learn how to count music and you can drop it on the one. No shade. But as long as you can do those two things, anybody can learn the basics of being a DJ. When you start to create your own individual personality with how you display music and change it, and then that's when it becomes more personalized. So I may scratch one way, the next person may scratch completely different than me, and that just shows their flavor, their style of how they're presenting themselves as a DJ. So when it comes to like beat juggling, not everyone beat juggles the same. Some can do it really fast, some do it slower, some will, instead of do like a whole bar, they'll do half bars or they'll do quarter bars with their beat juggles, and they just find different ways to kind of change it up. But it also displays their talent. So then as a DJ, you try to think of things that can separate you from this big crowd of other DJs. Because if you don't, then you just kind of blend in. There's nothing exciting about you that where if you're trying to get booked by venues or to DJ a festival, it's like you just have to find different avenues to be like, what makes this person better? What
are the things that get you to stand out? I mean, you play regularly, right?
Yes.
You play a couple times a week, so...
So reading a crowd, understanding a crowd is like a big thing. Knowing how to, like, if your goal is to DJ in like a nightclub per se, it's really not about like the scratching or anything like that. It's your relatability to the crowd and how you read crowds. That's the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. If you're a turntablist, like the biggest thing, how you could tell a good turntablist from an okay turntablist is how advanced they are in their scratches. And how advanced they are in their turntablism when it comes to beat juggling, when it comes to coming up with, I guess you could say, tone plays, where they take a tone from one song and they make another song out of it and then play that song on the opposite side. And different things that kind of makes it like you wouldn't expect that to happen. Kind of like they come with the element of a surprise of like, oh, you thought that was cool? Check out how cool this is. Yeah. And they're displaying the art form of the DJ, I guess you could say, in a way that's like breakdancers. When a breakdancer breakdances, he has facial expressions and aggression and everything that kind of comes along with their dancing. Or a ballet person, they show emotion and stuff like that. And so it kind of gives like that. It's like DJing with turntablism. That was like the more rough and aggressive version of breakdancing, and like the music, it was just like a way of culture to like, that was how hip hop was created. Mm-hmm. Doing the scratches, doing the what we call beat juggling. They would take rock and roll, where they would take just the drum breakdowns, and they would call it the quote unquote get down. There's a movie about it, but that part would be what people would use as like their hip hop beat. That was and that was like how they started their breakdancing. Yep. Yeah. And so then it started that area. Huh?
Is the movie any good?
Yes, it's actually really good. It gives a lot about like hip hop culture, how it started. It's called The Get Down. It's on Netflix. I'm pretty sure it's a Netflix original, so it still should be on there. But it's good. And they give a really good history culture about like hip hop and how it started, and then like the first rap song and stuff that was ever produced and put out on a record and stuff like that. So it's really cool. It's long, but it has like a back love story involved in it too. So
is it like a documentary or is it a movie?
It's a movie, but it is also a documentary in a sense, because it does give legit facts about like hip hop culture and how it was started when it was being how.
Did you see the NWA movie?
Yeah, Straight Outta Compton and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Yep, it was good. And this is like the same way that was, where it kind of gave history, but it was still a movie played by actors. Yeah. the Get Down is like that too. It's a movie. It talks about how, like, where it originated from and how it's expanded and grew. And it talks about like African Bambaataa and a bunch of other artists that kind of grew up and you didn't really know what to call it at that time. But then, yeah.
That's cool.
So it was a really cool movie.
Everything you're talking about too happens live. Like it's a live performance.
Yep.
Whereas like in Ableton, I don't have to worry about coming in on one because Ableton will do that for me.
Right.
Even though it's Ableton Live. So yeah. Oh, that's a really cool aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, it's so you just have to be so full of charisma, so full of confidence to be able to try that stuff in real time. I mean, you think about back when those guys were making it up the first time. I mean, what balls, what absolute guts for them just to go. And now I will make up words that rhyme.
Right.
Yeah.
And well, that was what made it cool. Was at first it was like the MC came second to the DJ, and like the DJ was like the main event because not everyone could do it. Right. And that was what made it stand out. That was like how they kind of got their distance from everyone else is because, he could take 2 tracks and blend them together. Yeah. Can you do that yet? No.
Well, it's improv.
Yeah.
It's sharing on the tradition of improv.
Yeah.
And so that's why you see some people that are like really big into like the turntablism side of things and then some aren't, which is fine because like they said, they're all different forms of the art. It's just which one do you fall on?
Yeah.
And like,
where do you think DJing is going? I mean, a pretty huge progression from Grandmaster Flash to now. So what's next?
It's very unique. I think online DJing, especially given the circumstances, because before,
like what you're doing on Instagram,
yes.
like Instagram live
yep.
DJs.
Yep. I feel like online DJing is gonna actually be kind of something that's in the forefront because with COVID and stuff. COVID changed everything in the DJ community. It forced people to stay home more. It forced people to be more of like, maybe I shouldn't go out. And bar, nightclubs, every venues, they all have to have lower numbers than before. Festivals are all going to have to change. It's a lot of stuff that's all coming that is going to take some time to get back to feeling normal, but I don't think we'll ever be 100% like what we were before.
Right.
So I feel like now it's more of along the lines of like online DJing is going to be the next big thing because you see big name artists starting on platforms like Twitch and
David Guetta is doing a ton of stuff on Twitch.
Yep, and he does like producer classes and stuff like that.
Does he really?
Yep. And
I would do that. I love him.
David Guetta does it.
He's my old man muse.
T-Pain.
He is not my old man muse.
And then who else? Who else was doing it? There was a couple of other artists that were big. Martin Garrix, he was doing online classes. I think he does that.
He looks like Peter Pan to me.
Yep.
He just keeps getting younger and more little boyish.
Laidback Luke, he does it. And then they also do like demo submissions so where you can submit your stuff in after taking their classes. And if they like you, they'll sign you to their label. And cool. And so online festivals are kind of a thing. We're virtual.
Yeah, they did online. They did virtual Burning Man.
Yep.
They did online. Was it Lost Lands
live
online?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there again, what do you think is missing from those things? Because you really don't get the environment.
Yes, you don't get the environment. You don't get the element of like having that human connection and stuff like that. I just feel like now, like before, it was like bedroom DJs were like, that was starting point. And now these bedroom DJs that are really talented, it helps open up a whole nother door because these guys feel comfortable at home. So once they create these avenues for them and they have these platforms that they take time to set up and build, they don't have the crowd in front of them. So a person like a Dead Mouse that has that anxiety of fear and being in front of people, and the helmet is what keeps him calm, no longer has to worry. Yeah. And because he's still in the comfort of his home, which helps. And
I want to be a bedroom preacher.
Hey.
Which sounds dirty, but
so yeah, I feel like it could go either way, and then like the downfall to it is the human interaction, the reading the crowd. You can't read a crowd through a computer screen.
Through a bunch of
they're in a camera,
So
it's different because I don't know. Like it's just, I guess it all depends on how you look at it or how you view it. The benefit is DJs now don't have to have to deal with that person that's going to hassle them about a request that will completely kill the vibe of the room. Yeah.
RBA club, I'm not gonna you don't know how to read a crowd. What do you doing?
So, but then the downfall too is that like if you're like a turntablist, yeah, you can display your talents and stuff like that online, but it's not the same as seeing it live and in person. Because when I go see a DJ Craze, I'm going to see him not because of his ability to like mix music, but to see his talents, because he's a very talented DJ. As far as his turntable skills go and stuff like that. So I feel like those elements of being able to see people in person, it's not the same. It's like you see David Guetta on YouTube all the time, but seeing him in person is completely different. Sure. Yeah, it's an experience. So
how do you feel as a performer not having any energy coming back at you?
It's harder.
Yeah.
I feed off energy. I feel like the more energy that I have, the more excited I get about the next track, because I'm like, oh, this is going to work so well. Yeah.
See, I've only seen you at like restaurants or wedding receptions. We always talk about going to see you at one of the clubs, and then it never quite works out. But on Instagram, you've got so much more warmth, so much more charm. I'm going to DJ Thirsty Dre. That's Thirst Dre. That's what we're going to call it. DJ name.
Yeah. I get more freedom when I'm online. So I do TikTok. That's the main thing that I've been doing lately. And now because TikTok's kind of cool. Once you hit 1,000 followers, you can go live. And TikTok doesn't have all the strict copyright laws like Facebook and all the other ones do. Yeah. And so it gives me an opportunity, because they carry a license to play a lot of the music that they have on there for when people do the dances. Yeah. So it helps with me being a DJ, because I have licensed music to where I won't get hit for copyright. Yeah. And so being able to DJ on TikTok and I can go live, it gives me that freedom to really just have fun and kind of do stuff that I would love to do out, but I'm always catering to someone. So whoever's booking me, I leave them. I'm like, okay, what kind of music would you like? Tell me, because I have everything and I listen to everything. So it's just all depends on how I have to cater to my crowd. But when I get that freedom to do something that I just want to do, it gives me more free range to be like, hey, check out some of the stuff that I do for fun with my pastime. It's not what you normally listen to from me, but if it's something you're willing to open your mind to a little bit and listen to it, cool.
Now, what about churchy stuff? When you look at the church, if you were to predict the ways in which you think the Big C church needs to change, what do you see coming?
I see more. It's kind of hard to explain. I feel like I see more worship being the thing. As like worship is, for some and some churches, worship is just like an extra tool to get you connected to God. But they feel as if you don't need worship to be able to give to God your all and stuff like that. You should be able to do it naturally. But I feel like worshiping with music and stuff like that is becoming a stronger and more needed thing, is because the way of society today, they connect with music a lot heavier than what they did in the past. There's multiple people now that say they connect with an artist and stuff that artist has said than what it is that you would sadly say when they hear from like a preacher or a worship leader. No one quotes the worship leader. Mm-hmm. They will quote that artist that they've heard. And I feel like that grab between that worship leader and like kind of like pushing that light, I feel like that would be the change that would help people see more of like, there's more weight to this, and it's more tangible than what you're getting from that artist. But it's the relatability is the biggest thing. And then when that worship leader isn't saying stuff that is relatable to them, they have a harder time connecting to it compared to where if it's an artist that's like, oh, this is what this song is about, and then they I can relate to that, and then so seeing a worship leader kind of grow in that aspect of like filling out the crowd, being more relatable, and having a connection. I feel like that's something that I feel like is starting to grow more. Yeah, because more and more people now. When you think about like a
so you were starting to jump in. So
I was just going to ask you a question. As we have to socially distance and we lose connection on some levels, do you think that our connection to You know, because people connect with the artists they've never met, and they will feel that so strongly.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see that happening in the church?
I do believe so. I just feel as if it is. I just had the thought of like, I feel like it's going to be. Oh, okay. So the way I see it growing and improving and happening in the church is when artists or producers now make a song, like during the pandemic, you're not going to see an artist make a song about happy, joy, life's perfect and great, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be more of along the lines of we can make it through this. We're going to encourage this and making it relatable to the time. And when you can make things relatable to the time, more people are going to lean into it. And so when you have that worship leader that's making it relatable to the times and the experiences in life that they're experiencing right now, they feel that. That's the connection that makes them lean in and makes them want to gravitate more towards it. And I feel like now, because there is so many more distractions that are taken away from them, now that gives them that time to really harness and focus in on that, because it is something that's still in their face and they still get to hear it. So it makes them want to lean in more.
Yeah. Who's inspiring you right now? Like, for in your own personal journey of faith, not necessarily a DJ, but who are the people that are helping you?
As crazy as it sounds, I really like when I hear Jay-Z talk. Jay-Z is a man that was incarcerated. He's been through the system. He's had a lot of stuff happen, and he is one of the richest African-American males in the world. Yeah. And he talks about his focus and his dedication to how, like, there's so many things that he had to learn and understand, and like, it's relatable in my life. There's so much that I had to learn and understand, and then to see how things operate and function, and to how you have to make yourself into a stronger being than who you were before. I just always thought, like, it's just...
He's got a crazy story. And yes. I never realized how much more net worth he has than Beyonce.
Yeah.
Because you think, like, Beyonce married down.
Yeah.
Then you Google it.
Yeah.
Like, what the?
Yes.
Holy smoke. Yeah.
The stuff behind the scenes that no one knows.
Yeah,
and
all his producing, all the people he's given a leg up to.
Yeah.
So, do you consider him a person of faith? Like, do you go, like, Jay-Z, he might be a little rough, but he's a great Christian at the heart? Or do you just think he's a great human?
I'm not really sure if he's a person of faith or not. Yeah. But as far as, like, a human, a guy that will speak motivational speaks to you, like, I feel like he's a motivator. Yeah. His story is kind of like an empowering story that's, like, it makes you believe. It's, I guess, as a kid growing up, I've always needed examples to see someone that's like me in a position to where that way I can believe it is possible. Prior to Barack Obama, I never thought an African American would ever become president in the United States of America. When that happened, that made that a possibility. That made it as something that's tangible for a lot of young students and stuff like that, because they physically seen someone like them in a role. Yeah. And so seeing his story and stuff like that, it was kind of like, man, like, those are capabilities. This guy came from rock bottom. He came from nothing. Yeah. He showed that he could be different and change. And he changed in a way that he was still himself, but still wholeheartedly evolved his life. And I was just like...
I mean, he's got such a great flow, such great personal command. But then he's used his platform to help so many others.
Yes.
And I don't know anybody that's unilaterally admirable, so I don't want to give the rubber seal of approval to Jay-Z totally. But he's done some amazing things for others.
You know, he's done some good and stuff. And he tells people that, I think one of the coolest things I've heard him say is that every L is a lesson. And he was like, as long as you can remember that you're learning something from your mistake or how you fall down, then you're always able to get back up and try it again. There's no one else's decision to tell you no, but your own. It was just like, he even made a comment once on David Letterman's show where he said, even if you're older, he uses the reference to The Baby, which is another rapper, and guy was rapping his whole life since he was 18 years old. Finally made a hit when he was 32 years old. Now look at him. He's one of the biggest rappers of today. And so many people told him it's too late, he needs to give it up, and all this other stuff like that. And then here, one song.
There's still hope for me. At 52, I'm gonna have my
You
first
still
big
got
night.
time. You can still do it.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
it's a mindset. And he's like, how dedicated are you to something? It's just like with that relationship with God, or if you're trying to start an outreach, how dedicated are you to it? How consistent are you going to be with it, and how much are you going to push for it? Because when you're really passionate about something, you'll give up everything and try everything to make it work. So
yeah. Well, I know that lesson firsthand, man. Getting the chapter house up and running, and all the things that we've been able to do here, and all the things we've been able to do through Westwinds and all over the place, and just man, if you don't bleed for it, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
Well, I'm really glad to have you on the show with us, because I just like all the stuff we talk about. Talking about beat drops, talking about filters, talking about effects, talking about the fact there's no words, we're talking about personas, stems, cues, sampling, beat juggling, beat mapping, the mashups of old and new. So for this reason, and about 8 million others, I think a great threshold for preaching and public ministry performance is to think in terms of a DJ and how we're responding to the crowd and creating an environment. And I have high hopes for what that looks like for us. And of course, I don't mean that we're going to actually get up there with turntables all the time or marshmallow heads. I just mean that some of the same mechanics are at work in public ministry, and we have lots to learn, man. So yeah. So thanks for being on here, and thanks, Kelly, for all the things.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. All right.
Great.
And amen.